Giants waiting for George Pickens to sign his franchise tag. We got the latest on what the hesitation might be. That's coming your way in just minutes. Ty Simpson and Sean McVay had a secret meeting before the draft. We'll tell you what this latest wrinkle in the Rams' plan to draft Matthew Stafford is. Plus, the Giants bulked up their offensive and defensive lines in the draft, but Malik Neighbors had some questions. Wait until you hear how John Harbaugh reacted and what it means for the Giants going forward. Glad to have you here. We've got Kimberly Martin and J-Mac here in studio. Peter Schrager is with us as well. We've got live reports throughout the show, so let's get to it. We're going to begin with the developing story on Aaron Rodgers. A lot to get to there. Adam Schefter reporting that the Steelers placed the rare UFA tender on Aaron Rodgers, meaning that he can accept a 10% raise off last year's salary, which would pay him about $15 million this season. As another condition of the tender, Rodgers would only be able to sign with the Steelers once training camp begins. Let's explain this unsigned free agent tender a little bit more. Teams can assign it after the draft is over. Once assigned, players can still sign with other teams. If Rodgers does sign elsewhere, it could help the Steelers land a compensatory pick in next year's draft. It's going to be a good draft. If he doesn't sign with a different team by training camp, he can only sign with Pittsburgh, as we told you. So any team that wanted to acquire Rodgers after camp begins would have to make a trade for his rights. So it's a lot of gobbledygook, but basically he's going to be a Steeler, I think. Kimberly, from the Steelers' perspective, why did they decide to do this?
All right, stop me if you've heard this, but the Steelers believe that Aaron Rodgers will play for them this season. When he will get there, no one knows. But this, like you said, the two words that were very important in what Laura just said, compensatory picks. This is, look at it as an administrative maneuver. In the off chance that Rodgers does sign somewhere else, which the Steelers don't think he will, but just in case, this is almost an insurance policy to make sure that they get a compensatory pick. Keep in mind, guys, this is the same team that thought it'd be in position to draft a wide receiver, Mekhi Lemon, until they weren't able to. So now they're...
Adam Schefter just dropped the news that the Pittsburgh Steelers placed a rare UFA tender on Aaron Rodgers. And everyone is trying to figure out what this means. Is Rodgers coming back? Is he retiring? Is he going to sign somewhere else? But I think everyone is missing the point. This is not about Aaron Rodgers. This is about the Pittsburgh Steelers finally acting like a smart, forward-thinking organization. And I think Adam Schefter is right to report this as a major story because it tells us everything we need to know about how the Steelers operate. Let me break this down for you because nobody else will. The first 2 minutes of this video show the NFL Live crew explaining what this tender actually means. It is complicated. It is rare. It is essentially an insurance policy. The Steelers can offer Rodgers a 10% raise off last year's salary, about $15 million. If he signs it, he is a Steeler. If he does not sign with another team before training camp, he can only sign with Pittsburgh. And if he does sign somewhere else, the Steelers get a compensatory pick. Kimberly Martin said it perfectly. She said, "Stop me if you've heard this, but the Steelers believe that Aaron Rodgers will play for them this season." And that is the key. The Steelers are not panicking. They are not begging. They are not flying to California to meet with him. They are making a business decision that protects their interests while still leaving the door open for Rodgers to come back. And that is exactly what a well-run organization does. Peter Schrager added that this is essentially an insurance policy on the rare chance that Rodgers signs somewhere else. And he is right. The Steelers are covering their bases. They are not putting all their eggs in the Rodgers basket. They are also preparing for life without him. And that brings me to the most underrated part of this entire segment. The Steelers have Drew Aller. They have Will Howard. They have young quarterbacks who can develop. The analysts talked about Aller's physical tools. They talked about how he holds the 4th lowest career interception rate over the last 30 FBS seasons. They talked about how he had the potential to be the first quarterback off the board when he entered the draft. And now, because Aaron Rodgers is doing his usual Aaron Rodgers timeline thing, the Steelers get an entire off-season to work with Aller and Howard. They get to evaluate them. They get to give them representatives with the starters. They get to see what they can do. And if one of them emerges as a legitimate starter, the Steelers are set for the next decade. If not, Rodgers is there. And if Rodgers does not show up, they have a backup plan. That is how you build a franchise. That is why the Steelers are consistently competitive while other teams are consistently rebuilding. Now let me talk about the other big story in this segment. George Pickens and the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys placed the franchise tag on Pickens. They expected him to sign it last Thursday. It remains unsigned. Stephen Jones said before the draft that the team does not plan to do a long-term deal with the wide receiver. And then the Cowboys went out and drafted 5 defensive players with their first 6 picks. The only wide receiver they took was in the 7th round. J-Mac said it best. He said, "If I'm George Pickens, I'm having my agent explore every opportunity to get a trade going because I want to go somewhere this offseason where I can get paid." And he is absolutely right. The Cowboys have told Pickens, to his face, that they are not going to give him a long-term deal. They want him to play on the tag. They want him to risk injury for 1 year while they figure out their defense. And if he gets hurt, his value plummets. That is not fair. That is not how you treat a player who just had a career-best season. J-Mac also pointed out that the draft just passed. A year ago, everyone was talking about the quarterback class. Now everyone is looking to 2027. You do not know what a year of football is going to bring. George Pickens has to stay healthy. Dak Prescott has to stay healthy. It is the 2nd year in the system, which means every defensive coordinator has studied the tape. So if Pickens signs the tag and plays, he is taking a massive risk. And the Cowboys are asking him to take that risk while offering him nothing in return. That is not how you build loyalty. That is not how you build a winning culture. That is how you endure. With disgruntled stars who demand trades and leave in free agency. Peter Schrager said something that really stood out to me. He said the Cowboys killed the draft. They improved their defense significantly. They hired Christian Parker, a firebrand defensive coordinator from the Eagles. They went defense, defense, defense with their top picks. And on the surface, that is great. The Cowboys needed help on defense. Dan Orlovsky said this could be a top 10 defense with what they have done. But here is the problem. If George Pickens is not on the field, your offense is not what it was a year ago. You can do all the flips you want about your draft grade. You can give them an A+ for the defensive picks. But if you have a gaping hole at the number 2 wide receiver spot because Pickens is not there, you might have botched the draft by not addressing that position. The analysts asked a great question. Is there a world where the defense is enough better that the offense can meet them halfway and the team can function well without Pickens? And the answer is maybe. But that is not the point. The point is that the Cowboys had a chance to lock up a young, talented wide receiver who just had his best season. And they chose not to. They chose to prioritize defense, which was a need. But they did not have to choose. They could have done both. They could have signed Pickens to a long-term deal and drafted defense. They have the cap space. They have the resources. They just did not want to. And that is a choice. That is a choice that tells you everything you need to know about how the Cowboys view their own players. Meanwhile, the Steelers are sitting there with an insurance policy on Aaron Rodgers, a young quarterback they can develop, and a clear plan for the future. The Cowboys are sitting there with a disgruntled wide receiver, a defense that is improved but unproven, and a cloud of uncertainty hanging over their entire offense. Which organization would you rather be? The answer is obvious. The Steelers are acting like a smart, disciplined franchise. The Cowboys are acting like a team that still does not know what it wants to be. Adam Schefter was right to report the Rodgers story as major news. But the real story is not about Rodgers at all. It is about the Steelers front office making a savvy move that protects them no matter what happens. And it is about the Cowboys front office making a series of decisions that could blow up in their faces. Subscribe to the channel if you want real NFL analysis. Not the drama. Not the hot takes. Just the truth about which teams are actually building something sustainable. And comment below. Should George Pickens sign the tag or demand a trade? And is Aaron Rodgers actually going to play for the Steelers this year? I read every single comment. Now let me know your thoughts and get ready for training camp.